Now we're talking about rules we may not be aware of around the world.
Oh, you know, I've talked about this a couple of times over the course of the 25 years of being here.
You're a baby.
I know, I was 3 when I started.
Yeah.
That said, there are some things that if you don't do your homework, you can get slapped with some really gross fines, like really big fines, or you can land yourself in jail. So really, that's what I just want to remind people of. No matter where you go, do a little bit of homework to see what's appropriate and what's not, and what could end up costing you. So the first thing is just a quick reminder. Europe is big right now, and Italy is super popular. If you're heading to Venice, don't feed the pigeons. Anywhere between 80 and 775 US dollars. That's what you could be charged.
And I know say, if you go to Venice, the pigeons are everywhere. In
I heard there's 100,000.
Why? Because people were feeding them. People were feeding them.
Right. Yeah. And I know it makes for a really great Insta picture, and but you will get slapped with a fee. Okay. The next one is if you're going to India, and this is on a lot of people's bucket list at the moment. So gambling of any sort is completely prohibited. Even one of those innocent games that you happen to be playing, if you're playing blackjack or poker, if they catch you, it doesn't matter. Wow. It will land you a fee or jail time as well.
Wow.
And so definitely don't want to take a deck of cards. Just
that's a gamble.
To stay safe. It's a gamble. Okay, the next one is Singapore. So since 1992,
there are a lot of rules.
There are so many rules. Yes. So I'm going to talk about the gum one. There's also the spitting, which is filthy anyway. But gum has been a no-go since 1992 because it actually did some damage to their transit systems. So that will get you a fine. It will land you jail time if you're importing any. So don't put it in your bag to travel with either. So just something to be cautious of.
Not even in your bag.
Not even in your bag, because they'll think if you're taking a lot of it that you're selling it, and that was what can create the jail issue. Airbnbs. So this has become really popular. I know my daughter, when she's in Europe right now, is staying in 5 different Airbnbs while she's away. A really affordable way to go. That said, you need to make sure that they have the permits. So if you go into a city where permits are necessary. So that could be New York. You need permits there to actually host somebody. It could be, what are some of the others that were on that list? Santa Monica,
so
just outside of LA.
Specifically
Paris.
ask when you make the reservation.
You should ask. If you don't and you stay in somewhere that's unauthorized, you could be landed with a fine. So it's your responsibility to double check. Barbados, no camouflage. So this is since the 1980s, and it's stuck.
No camouflage clothes?
No camouflage clothing.
That takes a lot of the wardrobe out from some teenagers.
Right? Yeah, this is the thing. I know my daughter, both of my kids actually have camouflage, so you wouldn't want to take it. Right?
Yeah.
So since the 80s, it's stuck, but it was because in the 80s there were a lot of gangs, and they were impersonating soldiers, and they wanted to prevent that.
And they actually enforce this?
They still enforce it. Probably less than a place like Singapore.
The 6-year-old wearing the camo sneakers might slide, but
I'll tell you another place that will enforce this is the UAE, the United Arab Emirates. If you do any PDAs, so public displays of affection, it could be touching someone that you love, it could be kissing them, you could land in jail. And you may have heard the British couple a couple of years ago in the media, it was all the talk because they were kind of necking on the beach.
Boy.
Jail. Okay?
Oh my gosh.
Let's get to people traveling.
Yeah.
Do we have time for it?